Well, when you were talking, something came up, and it's what we were talking about a little bit before, but it's for me, it was my major pain point. The core of my suffering is that I didn't feel like I belonged. When I was a kid, didn't belong in my family. When I was in the military, didn't feel like I belonged. I felt less than insecure. So I would say if you're struggling and you're suffering and one thing to kind of take away is that you belong. You are part of this human family. You are everything. Yet we just forgot. That's it. We don't need to be fixed. We don't need to be, you're not disordered. You're not broken. Too much time is wasted in healing by using that model.
Have you ever been through something that was supposed to make you stronger, but instead you felt broken? Have you ever carried something invisible that nobody else could see? Something that left you struggling in ways you couldn't explain. My guest today is Jonny Mize, a U.S. Army combat veteran. He deployed to Afghanistan, came home carrying invisible wounds, trauma that nearly cost him his life. But Jonny survived and found something that saved him: Transcendental Meditation. It worked so quickly and brought him so much peace that he became a certified TM teacher himself. And in fact, he became my teacher. Today, he's in San Diego serving veterans and first responders through the Resilient Warrior program, teaching other warriors how to find the same peace that brought him back to life. Aloha, I'm Thomas, a plane crash and burn survivor, and I started this podcast because I know what it's like to hit rock bottom and wonder if you're going to make it back. If you've ever struggled with trauma, with mental health, and with darkness that feels like it's going to swallow you up, this conversation is for you. What Jonny shares is real, vulnerable, and exactly what people who are suffering from something similar need to hear. So please enjoy this episode with my friend, Jonny Mize. I guess my question for you, man, is can you take us back to when you were younger and some of that struggle and some of that trauma? Because I know it wasn't the easiest childhood.
Yeah, I just grew up kind of, in a very tumultuous environment, was kind of in and out of homes for a lot of my childhood, slept on couches, on random people's floors and whatnot, and just, had some supervision that was dealing with some mental illness and substance abuse, and you know how it goes, unresolved childhood trauma of their own. So it kind of got really tough very early on, very tough. I remember at third grade just kind of thinking to myself, this isn't normal. This isn't natural, what I'm having to witness and experience with all the amount of suffering that was going on in the home.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing, even at such a young age, you can kind of feel when something's off.
Yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah.
It's a trip. I don't know how I was able to sense that, but I think that maybe just be what we innately have when we, when we're born, and then society and everyone's unresolved trauma and all their stuff kind of just makes us forget that safety and that security that I think we all innately have. But yeah, I got, I would run away a lot and just want to get away. And of course that made things worse because it was just, retaliation of running away. And then what was really tough was I remember a point where seeing my sister and my mom fight, just dukes out in the living room.
Like physically throwing at each other?
Yeah, just straight up MMA style on the floor, and being, in third grade or whatever, just completely frozen, just could not wrap my head around the fact that these two people that I love so much, that care for me, could be fighting each other in like the most vicious way, like pulling hair and screaming. And that was a moment where I was frozen. And I think that was a moment where it kind of solidified that my younger self was thinking, okay, I'm on my own. I'm going to have to figure this out and try to navigate a maneuver around this until I can get the hell out of this situation. And I eventually did have to be taken out of the home once I got into high school. But yeah, it was just a lot of physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, neglect. There was some sexual abuse, of course, homelessness, being involved in the justice system. There there was a lot, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's so much to deal with. And yeah, not having the tools or even being able to like, what's a healthy way to process this? From there, though, okay, it looks like you're looking and you're searching for somewhere where maybe you're accepted, you're understood, and you kind of feel, I think the safety plays a large part of that.
Oh
Is
yeah,
this
for a
when,
kid especially, man. Yeah,
yeah,
that's everything.
yeah. So does this eventually lead to you joining the military? And at what age were you when you decided to, yeah.
Yeah, so I joined when I was 19 and I was looking for, yeah, just stability, community service, wanted to be something more than my life up to that point,
Mm,
to be part of something greater than myself. And I luckily had a great person in my life. David was his name. He passed away, unfortunately, but he was kind of my new guardian. Once I had to be taken out of my home, he took guardianship of me, and he was a guidance counselor. That's what he did for a living, but he also was a really good, solid human being, and he
yeah.
was just trying to coach me,
Yeah.
as
Did you
best
did
as
you meet him through the military or
no, no,
no?
he was my sister's husband, before he
Oh,
passed away.
wow.
My sister and him met in high school and were high school sweethearts. And he was such a good person, and for me and for my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just living with him, trying to figure out what I want to do at 18,
Mm-hmm.
19. And he just kind of suggested the idea of the military, and he was never forceful, but he was just such a positive influence in my life that I respected what he had to say, because he was someone that was a genuine helper. He
Yeah.
was making a positive impact on these kids' lives in
Mm-hmm.
high school, where he was a guidance counselor. And I was so lucky to have him, because I don't really know where I would have been without him or my sister
Yeah.
taking me in. And then I joined and, yeah, served 6 years or so. And then one of those years was deployed to Afghanistan, '06 to '07.
Were you in active combat around that time or?
So I wasn't in direct fire. I wasn't in any direct combat. I was stationed in the combat zone,
Mm-hmm.
but I was attached to Special Operations Command to support those guys that were going out.
Yeah.
So luckily, I didn't have to leave a lot of the time to go outside of the perimeter, but just dealing with chronic, constant
Fear,
indirect
I'm guessing,
fire,
right?
the
Yeah.
suicide bombers, having to be the detail for the, KIA ceremonies, just being in that
Mm.
environment, and science is coming out more and more, especially with kids that are being born into inner city poverty communities.
Mm.
Our environment can be traumatic. And
Yeah.
for someone that is, has maybe more of a sensitive nervous system, like, I didn't realize I was just absorbing all of that stress.
Yeah.
I was there for a year, and then just the stress of being away from friends and family, and
Definitely.
being with the same people every
Mm-hmm.
day, smaller room than we are right now. It
Right.
just got to me, and I snapped around 9 months in and just kind of lost it. And then did the year and then
Mm-hmm.
came back home. And that's when it kind of got tricky.
Everything, yeah,
Yeah.
everything started falling on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much too. And you're so right about the environment. I think we downplay it. Society downplays it that, your environment does help to create your mindset, right? I'm a big
Oh,
believer
dude.
in
Yeah.
stoicism in that we need to be responsible for the thoughts and emotions we accept. We're
Hmm.
not responsible for all the ones that pop up, right? But how we react with it, what we actually accept that we choose to put out there
Yeah.
is
How do
up to
we how do
us.
we respond to that? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Absolutely.
in such and it's not the same at all, but in a weird way, I can relate because being
Hmm.
in an ICU for about 6 months
Mm.
and just constantly hearing, like, even though I could see my whole body was bloody and everything, but it was, but hearing everything too, hearing other people screaming
Mm.
and babies crying and screaming and
Oh, yeah.
seeing, and I give so much credit to these doctors and nurses who are there, week in and week out,
Yeah, man.
and seeing people at their absolute worst. But it attaches to you,
Mm.
and yeah, you're right. Like for me, I was probably breaking the whole time, and because it was a shattering of reality over and over and over again for me,
Mm.
and then I wasn't able to really like work through it till after. But you are experiencing this. You're in that environment. You have this break down, where do you go to start healing things from there? Because are you stuck abroad, or do you come back to the States?
No, I just kind of, as we were taught, kind of sucked it up and drove on and
Wow.
just did the mission. And because there's no one really to talk to when you're, at least when I was in the military, there's no one really to talk to that I knew of. Maybe there might have been a chaplain. Yeah, I guess there was a chaplain, but for whatever reason, that word and that position didn't resonate with me, especially when I was
Right.
21, 22. And going back to my childhood, no resources, no training on how to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's a big bridge right there. There might be help. There
Hmm.
might be someone say, "Hey, I'm here to help." But how do you ask for help? How do you first
Right.
know how to even approach that situation? So I
Exactly.
just did the job for the rest of the deployment and came back home. And of course, when you get back home away from a stressful environment, maybe
Mhm.
in the hospital or combat or whatever it is, there's just a little bit of a relief and high that you're, oh, good, I'm back, I'm out of it,
Yeah.
I'm out of it, as if that's true, because as like you were just saying, you could be out of a stressful traumatic environment at the hospital or a combat zone, but you
Mhm.
just said those things are still with you, those things are still attached to you.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was out physically of the
Mhm.
combat zone, but there was a bigger war within me that started, back in childhood. And I like to say my combat experience was just the last straw for my nervous
Mm.
system to be like, enough. You need to kind of hit your rock bottom. And after the high wore off,
Mhm.
3 months or so, maybe a little bit, my nervous system started to feel more somewhat, yeah, it
It
just
was
was
like,
away from the mania and the highness,
yeah.
and it started to be more real. And I started to feel things that I didn't like, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression,
Mm.
a lot of feeling like I don't belong and that no one understands me.
Yeah, man.
And then I obviously didn't like that and I didn't know how to handle that. So I started using alcohol and just video games, sex, anything that I could find that
Mhm.
could not make me feel what I was feeling inside, because
Yeah.
I
Numb it
just
all out.
didn't like it, but didn't have any point of reference on to know what the hell is going on. And maybe things have changed in the military since I've been out, but there wasn't a whole lot of high quality checking in intervention before. And maybe there might have been someone, doing his job when I got back into the States that said, "Hey, are you okay?"
Right.
And of course I'm going to go, "I'm
Yeah,
okay,"
I'm fine.
because I
Yeah.
want to go I want to go back home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was stuck by myself because I wasn't active duty. I was a reservist. So I
Mhm.
was really alone, truly alone, physically and mentally. And it's amazing. Looking back, I must have had a lot of good luck and support, because I don't know how I survived. Because usually that's a recipe for disaster, being stuck alone
Hey,
and
man.
being with those feelings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something I can relate to as well, man. You're so right.
Mm.
You're in that stressful environment. It feels like it attaches to you, right? There's that book like The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah,
They talk
man.
about the trauma that gets stuck in
So
your
true.
body. I believe it too. Like I
Hmm.
definitely felt it. Like I remember that feeling of getting out and being like, like in the actual moment you're safe. There's
Mm.
nobody coming to get you. There's no, there's not like the sky isn't falling, but your body feels like at any moment some shit is going to happen and you could possibly go. I was right there with you. I never was, I was a very social drinker and stuff like that. I never
Mm.
really did drugs. But man, I was like smoking weed for the first time. I was drinking way more than I ever did. I was
Mm.
eating more than I ever did. Like
Mm.
all these like crazy candies. And I lost so much weight. I lost like 50 pounds when I was in the hospital. And so they were constantly just like, you got to eat, you got to gain weight. But then, and I was
Gotcha.
never like
Gotcha.
I like sweets my whole life, but I didn't like
Yeah.
love them like that.
Yeah.
But then, man, when I got home, it was like, oh, like someone made a cake at work, and then my then girlfriend, now wife, would go to work and like someone brought donuts and I could eat all of them. It was like,
Yeah.
but it was so true. I didn't know what to do. Like my body was feeling like this, and I only knew that I didn't want to feel like that. So it's
Mm.
the same thing like you. I play video games nonstop. I
Mm.
poured everything into this video game, and at night drink too much. And yeah, it was like I really didn't know how else to move forward, and there wasn't any path forward for me anymore. And so anyways, I really can relate to that.
Yeah, and it just makes me think how many guys,
Yeah.
I'm sure, everyone, but just guys are out there going through this currently, and
Mhm.
especially young men who have no real positive role models or no resources really to kind of have an alternative, just another option, because it's kind of like that's what mainstream influence tells us, is like just pour your attention into either those things or working more
Right.
or the gym. And those are positive things, but it takes a lot of courage to be able to be present enough and still enough to be like, okay, and going back to your stoicism, okay, I'm responsible. I didn't cause this,
Yeah.
but I'm responsible for how I move forward with this. And
Really,
that was a game changer to have that click.
Yeah. I think also for me, it's also, I think courage is the right word, because also sometimes, especially for men, like sitting with your pain, sitting with the fact that what you went through is real and that it was hard, and, you don't want to relive some of those moments. For me, I definitely didn't want to relive the crash, but I could just keep playing. I know the feeling of like, we're going down and this is going to hurt, this is going to suck. And that feeling, I did not want to sit with it. And that's why, like, it's so, and I want to get through how you started to recover. But yeah, like for me, I would meditate a lot, not, TM meditation, but like, I guess I said meditation twice, but you know what I mean.
Oh, everyone. Yeah, I do that sometimes. Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, but I did not want to sit with that, even though I could do meditation. It was like the only way I could go to sleep before my accident. And then I could not meditate at all because I so did not want to be in my mind. I so did not want to be in my feelings. I didn't want to be in that moment.
Before and then after the traumatic incident.
Yeah, after. Yeah. Exactly. But you're right. I think
interesting.
It's so brave to take a moment and be like, whatever comes up, you're going to be okay. You're going to be strong enough to handle it. And so for you, you're in this moment now. You're still a young man. Society's telling you all this stuff that isn't necessarily bad, like you're saying, but also isn't really dealing with what you went through. Where do you start making this shift, and how did you start making this shift?
Yeah, so it got pretty dark there for a moment and became.
Do you mind if I ask, like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Like, because I think, I just want to, see if you wouldn't mind going deeper
I think it's
on that.
important because I definitely don't want to gloss over that part, because I think it's important that I share that and that other people can hopefully relate and maybe be inspired, because there's a lot of us that are really struggling and suffering, truly suffering right now, where we feel alone, and it may lead into suicidal ideation, which I found by working with the Suicide Prevention Council. A lot of people had
had a ton.
had these thoughts, whether we act on that, that's a different, but just destigmatizing that and knowing that, when we go through really dark times like I was, that can happen, and it's okay to ask for help and to the best you can. But when I was really suffering, I didn't have the resources, didn't have the people, and I thought I was all alone, and I just kind of negatively spiraled and add alcohol in the mix. And I made, a few suicide attempts, and it was alcohol induced. I don't think I would have done them if I didn't have alcohol. So there's definitely that challenge of separating yourself from what you're addicted to and what you're using to numb yourself. It's a whole complicated issue. But
are you completely sober now?
No. I found for me that I find that works best is to kind of go to the root cause of why I would even want to reach for something to escape in, and kind of release that more so than kind of restrain myself from particular activity or behavior. For me, that works. I know that other people that doesn't work, but I have a healthier relationship with all those things that I mentioned. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with having a drink here or there, or playing some video games here or there, or working harder every now and then, or going to the gym hard. For me, it's not so. I've learned that it's not so much the behavior; it's really what's going on within me.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Once I kind of hit my rock bottom, so to speak, I thankfully survived, and I had chiropractor, believe it or not, that was trying to work on my body, try to fix because I've always had low back pain. Going back to the body keeps the score. It makes perfect sense why I was having that low back pain in my childhood and into my adulthood. But he was a good guy, and he kind of just looked at me about 2 to 3 months into the treatment, and he just realized he wasn't able to help me. And he said,
Wow.
John,
That's pretty rare because you
Yeah.
think you could,
Yeah,
you hear the
most
stories of the doctors just trying to milk it like, no, just keep coming back.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you're
yeah.
an
He
amazing
tried his
guy.
best, and he definitely kept working on me, but he was honest, and he was a good guy. And he said, "Look, I don't
Awesome.
know what's wrong with you. You might want to look into something called Transcendental Meditation. I think that's going to help your physical pain."
Wow.
And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Like we
What
were
was your
sharing.
first? What was your first thought when he said, "Hey, you should look into transcendental meditation"?
Yeah.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 20, so it was early 20, so maybe 23.
23. So 23-year-old, some guy
24.
saying, "Hey, you should start meditating."
Yeah.
What was your first thought?
It was my first thought was, this guy is a nice guy, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's kind of out of his mind a little bit.
This guy's a quack.
This guy, he's just maybe trying to throw things out there.
Right.
Just because, as you know, I didn't have any talk about mental health, especially holistic health, like yoga,
Right.
meditation, and acupuncture. That was not, but I trusted him. He was a good guy, and I was suffering. I was in pain, and I was like, all right, I'll try it.
Yeah.
I'll see what this is all about. And as you know, as life goes, you kind of move on, and then another person comes into your life and starts talking about the same thing.
Wow.
And then you keep going on, and then another person comes into your life and starts. So I just had a few people, like a few musicians and people that I respected in like creative arts, talk about TM.
Wow.
And I just said, well, let me just look it up and go to their website, tm.org, and check it out. And I learned it, and I loved it. It worked. It really helped. And yeah, I just kept doing it every day.
That's amazing. It is amazing, like how when you are such in pain, you just like, whether it's physical or emotional in some ways for me, I think is harder. At least it was for me. But it's how open you are to other possibilities, right? I was always kind of an open person. Even at a young age, I had a boss that was like, "Hey, let's go try yoga." And for me at the time, I was like, let's do yoga just because of like the physical benefit.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I'm flexible, or like to become more flexible, and
Yeah,
I'm
man.
gonna get a good workout in and all that. But you're open now to the names of everything, the shavasana, these
Postures.
yeah, and the names of it, and the origin, how it's supposed to. There's a spiritual element to it, right? And for me as a young guy, it wasn't even about that. It was just like, let's work out or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
And then now, being somebody who was in so much pain, you're kind of open to so many more things because you're like, I just don't want to be in pain.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great opener. When we think about pain, we only think about how miserable it is and how terrible it is and how much you want to just escape that or get rid of it. But there is a side to being in so much pain where it just kind of opens the door for you to be like, I'll receive anything to get me away from this pain. And I think it's beautiful that
So true.
Unfortunately had to go through this, but at the same time, it gave you this door for this new, exciting and healing part of life to just enter your soul, I guess.
Pain is a pathway.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I wish I had someone tell me when I was a little kid. Just feeling so much emotional pain and physical pain. Because what I was being modeled by my mother, who's passed away, pain is something to run away from, to escape. Just take a painkiller, and nothing wrong with pharmaceuticals. We need them whenever it's intense, but chronically, that's going to just create more problems in the long run. So I was being modeled, pain is bad. Don't even acknowledge pain. Now I've learned, and I'm currently learning through other modalities that I'm taking care of my body with. Pain is a pathway. Pain is not bad. Pain is just the messenger that our bodies are communicating to us to ask for our attention and say, look, there's something here that you need to be present with. And then led me to the post-traumatic growth model that I love. And that's the kind of model that I really subscribe to and support because, and I think you kind of see eye to eye, is that we're not damaged goods. We're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just going through a very difficult time. And how do we relate to that? And how do we relate to our inner reality, especially that emotional pain? That's the gift of pain. So I feel like pain can really elevate us and actually develop higher states of consciousness. So it's almost a gift that we are given.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. That blew my mind because I turn on the TV and I turn on all this. I pick up my phone and the messaging is complete opposite.
Exactly. Pain relief. Get rid of the pain. Take
a
this
pill.
Yeah. Get this shot.
Just surface level stuff. Just put a smile on your face.
Yeah. Avoid. Get rid of
the positive. Yeah. It's just that messaging is so toxic, and I've come to learn that the human experience needs pain. Needs a little bit of struggle. But when it starts to turn into suffering, when it's too much struggle, when it's overwhelming and unbearable and there's no one around you to support you when you're going through that I feel is too much dark. And that's when a lot of people and families suffer. But
I love that.
Yeah.
I like to break it down this way. And I want to get back to, again, some of your beginning with TM, but me and my therapist break it down like this, and he's the one that taught me it, but there's meaningless suffering and then there's meaningful suffering, right?
Yeah.
And the meaningless suffering is, like sitting at home and just playing video games, knowing that something's not right in you, or knowing that, you have back problems, but like, I don't know, I'll go to the doctor next week, or I'll try to see if TM works for me next month, or, that's meaningless. You're just sitting in it. It's not helping you become better. It's not helping you become the person you want to be. And then there's meaningful suffering, which is like, I'm going to do this TM class and I'm going to sit with the uncomfortable part about me or what's in me so that hopefully I can move through it and learn how to like become the person I want to be. Or, I'm going to go work out. It's painful. It sucks. You got to put in energy. I got to get dressed. I got to go to the gym. But at the end of the day, I'm going to become healthier. I'm going to work out some of my stress. So meaningful and meaningless suffering. But
yeah, man, that's so true.
Yeah, I think about it that way. But for you, okay, so you're this young kid, chiropractor is saying, hey, I don't know if there's anything I can do for you. You're like, let's try TM. How do you get involved in this? What do you learn from it?
Yeah. So I was living up north, small little surf town, and thankfully there was a TM teacher nearby, Robert, great guy, and got connected through tm.org. It's a nonprofit that connects people who want to learn TM to their local TM teacher, and just kind of showed up for a little intro talk to hear more about it and to make sure that he's on the up and up and not some spiritual, weird, long hair, bead wearing guy.
Right,
because I didn't want that. Nothing. If that works for people, more power to them. But for me, I was looking for something that was really just practical and I could just use, and I have to believe in it. That was my biggest thing. I was tired of having to believe in everything for me to heal. I just wanted something that was really effective and efficient.
Can I take a break for a second? Because I just love what you said about that belief. I think there is a part to that too, where whether you're talking about mental health, psychology, or transcendental meditation, even like, for me going through what I went through, and I do see it as like a blessing. I do see it as a gift, but so many people are like, just pray about it or just, read your Bible. And don't get me wrong, it's nothing against religion. I think it's amazing. I know it helps people. I know it gives them something to like, gives them hope and everything. But for me, to your point, it wasn't just like, I can't just believe away the pain, I can't just believe away the trauma. So I really appreciate that you said that.
Yeah, it's such a, I know we don't want to offend anyone.
It's not about,
it's not
throwing
about,
down religion. It's not about that at all.
It's just what has worked for us.
Right.
And religion has helped a lot of people, and the power of belief and prayer, it can work. And they've done some studies that it does actually change people's perceptions and it does to some extent change their reality, and more power to them.
Absolutely.
I was really at a young age where I experienced a lot of religious trauma. And I talked to some people and, once you start talking to them, they say a lot of the same stuff. They don't, it's unfortunate. A lot of people have been helped by religion. A lot of people have been hurt by religion because of this idea that you need to have a medium or someone in between your relationship to whatever
God,
it is,
to God,
or there's just a little bit of separation, and that can be abused by certain people in that position. So that was definitely my case, and I didn't want to have to do that ever again. So I found myself in a very difficult situation where I was suffering. I had no idea if there was a God or what is God. I was atheist. I was then agnostic, and then it was kind of like, well, I don't know what the hell's going on. And then I attend the TM intro, and The TM teacher Robert was a good guy. He was just seemed happy. He just seemed healthy, and he just had vital energy when I was talking to him. And I was like, I don't know what, I didn't really understand what he was talking about when he did the intro talk, but I was like, if I learn this technique and if I end up as happy as you look, then I'll try it.
Yeah, yeah. Then it's worth it.
And it's worth it. Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's something to be said about talking just for the sake of talking, and words just being meaningless. And there's another something deeper, more profound, is that when you meet someone and they've embodied what they're communicating, almost to the point where that's more loud than what their
Right.
words are saying, where you just feel genuine presence, genuine caring. And it's difficult to describe because it's on an unconscious, subtle level, but you just meet some people, whether it's TM or a different kind of modality that they've been practicing for decades. They're just people that you just are naturally drawn to because you feel they're different. And on some subtle level, we're all kind of yearning and craving for something that I don't have to work and accept and believe. I just want something that can remind me in almost an instant that I am worthy just by being alive. And for me, that was TM. I learned it. And the very first session, I was instantly reminded of my power that was taken away from me when I was a child, when I was physically abused, sexually abused, when I was in combat and I felt hopeless and I felt like this is hell, this is suffering.
Yeah, also powerless and
Just powerless.
unsafe.
Yeah, just I could not get a fresh of breath air when I was when I was a child and when I was in combat, just feeling confined, physically, mentally, emotionally. And then one session with TM, it wasn't like a miracle, but it just kind of turned on a light in the room that was dark. And I kept doing it. And it's a technique you practice twice a day for 20 minutes, and you just sit comfortably with your eyes closed. You can do it anywhere. And it just got better and better. And I started to feel whole, and I started to feel human, and I started to see things differently and have different perspectives and options rather than just going to the, can I cuss on this?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
yeah.
Rather than just going straight immediately to the, fuck the world, fuck you, fuck everything, which where I was at, because that was my, suffering speaking.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. Because of the struggles and suffering that you've been through, it's almost as if we were getting crushed by our circumstances. And there's nothing wrong with struggle and challenges and adversity, but when we aren't given support while we're going through that. And TM for me was that inner support that I could have to deal with the past traumas, but also set me up for success for those future challenges and adversities. So it's a great recovery technique, and it's also an optimization practice that prepares you for success. So I can't say, I got to be careful because I don't want to come off as hokey or becoming evangelical about it, because I know it's not for everyone, but for me and for many people that I've referred and the many people that I've taught, have the honor of teaching TM, I see it time and time again. Sometimes in a matter of a few days, they have this light come back.
As my trainer, multiple times, but over that course that we did, the 4-day course, yeah, absolutely. There was moments that I hadn't felt since the hospital, and I love it. I mean, I want to go back a little bit. So much of what you said there, man, was just so beautifully put, and it is true. I mean, it's true for me, and it just, it kind of allowed things to fall away, allowed me to see those hard moments and not hold them with such grip and just an overexertion, right? There's using your strength, and then there's over abusing it to where you're like, I'm completely depleted, but it just kind of allows you to hold that painful moment a little lighter, and that's what I noticed from it. Man, I just, I love what you said.
Yeah,
I was
man.
just I'm blown away by that.
Well, you're creating the space. I think that's the power of presence, is that when two people or, a group of people show up and they're genuinely curious and present in a well-intentioned, compassionate manner, truth comes through. And I think that's what I'm really stoked about what you're doing here, man, is you're creating the community and the space for people to share their stories. And we overcomplicate things, It's really presence, stillness, consciousness that we are looking for. And TM I found to be a really effective modality to create that awareness and that stillness and consciousness. And to what your experience was, just relate to the pains and relate to the challenges and relate to the struggles in a more lighter, less serious. There's something to be said about not taking things too seriously, and just enjoying more.
Right. I mean, there's so much medicine, I think, in laughing and
bro.
Even though we've talked about some heavy conversations, it's like I so agree with you. Like one of the things I think that got me through the hospital was like my sense of humor. I got really dark. I had a very dark sense of humor.
Yeah,
but
man.
I would
too.
like, and
Me too, bro.
I do kind of feel bad. I'd mess with the nurses and like do things like,
hey, you gotta keep it light, man. You gotta find it where you can find it.
Yeah, but it's like I do find too, even with the heavy stuff that we're even talking about today, there is moments of levity. There is moments of like, yeah, but how crazy was that? Like that you went through that or you got through it. And it's this weird duality of life that we can go through things that are so hard and heavy and life or death, and at the same time, in some ways can laugh about your misery once you're kind of on the other side, I think. And I find myself doing that a lot.
Yeah, and I can tell, man, you always have this smile. You always have a good, lighthearted humor about you. And that's such a good point. I really, really appreciate you saying that, because that's another thing that I wish I could tell my younger self is, besides from, pain is a pathway, I would also tell him laughter is medicine, and don't hold back laughter, and find those, even if it's somewhat dark humor, find those moments while you're going through that struggle and suffering, and have the ability to laugh at the craziness of this human life. And of course, science now is showing that smiling and laughing actually has a physiological response, and it can kind of release those happy chemicals. So I think not taking life too seriously, finding the joy, and finding people and finding resources that give you genuine support that is tangibly, viscerally noticeable. Do what works for you. That's what I tell people is, whatever works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, don't do it anymore. Don't do things just for the sake of doing them. And if it's something's not working, do your research. Find what works. And for me, it was a few things. I did yoga, acupuncture, chiropractic, bodywork, massage therapy, just nature, getting into nature, getting into the sun, eating right,
Were you now open to all these things? Because I agree with you. For me, I've always been a curious person, but especially when it came to my healing, I was like, I'll try anything to just feel better, to not be depressed, to not think about suicide. So for me, it was like, I'll do anything, right? Do you think, was the TM that then opened up your mind to all these other modalities?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, because in TM, they've discovered that it actually wakes up your entire brain, and parts of the brain that are kind of frozen, so to speak, due to trauma or stress that blood flow can't get to. They find that TM wakes that part up, enlivens that, and integrates it. So you literally are kind of expanding your perception of consciousness so that you're able to see other things. And as a product, I started to kind of reach out and try this yoga crap and go and try this acupuncture crap that I thought was a kind of honky and woo-woo.
Like woo-woo.
Yeah,
it's not really gonna work.
Because there's something to be said about trying one thing, see if it works, and then if it works, you build momentum to do the next thing. And I found that when people take the TM course, they're kind of pleasantly surprised on how effective it is, and they go, okay, this works. Let me try something else. Maybe take a drama improv comedy class. Let me do that and see how that goes. So it really is about building momentum, and that's, yes, to your point. Thank you for bringing that up, because when you're so stuck in that mud or that quicksand, thinking 10, 15 steps ahead is too much. So just think one step at a time. And for me, it was learning TM, and then that's led into other modalities. Now, who knew that this would happen? It's completely taken over my entire life. And I went on to become a holistic health practitioner and a yoga teacher. I'm a massage therapist. And
really?
So yeah, basically.
What do you open next?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like, I want everything that healed me. I'm like, let me let me learn it, and then so I can heal others. So it's kind of a weird trip, man. It's a very weird trip. I did not, if we were talking to my little 10-year-old self right here, who was completely just like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on? And if we could tell him that, oh yeah, you're gonna be good, and not only are you gonna be good, you're gonna be thriving, and you're actually going to be helping others. Like, that would have been like, he couldn't even fathom that.
Yeah.
That would be, so anything's possible, man. That's one thing I've learned about this life so far. To be honest, it feels like I haven't even started, because I feel like I'm still learning more about myself. Like, I got into this world of fascia. Have you heard of this? It's like the connective tissue. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is it, I don't know if it's between your ligaments or muscles or something.
Yeah.
Like that, but like a lot of athletes talk about really like being able to like massage the fascia and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm into this fascia world right now, and I'm discovering that it's actually fascia that holds all the trauma and all the stress within the connective tissue.
Yeah.
So I've been doing fascia work, and that's showing me more, and it's also opening me up more. So it's kind of like there's so much. So just enjoy.
Right.
You know, just enjoy the process, and know that there's always going to be some new layer.
Right.
And
I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's like you open one door, and then that door for you opened up 10 more doors.
Yeah.
And now as you start walking through those doors, it seems like those each 10 doors, they each open up 10 more doors, right? And I love that about you. I think that's one thing we connected on very much, is like, I'll try anything to not want to end my life or not be depressed. And as I tried more things, and as I stepped into, I feel like this is too high fluent or whatever, you know, that I stepped into bravery, even though,
Gotcha.
you know, as long as I'm like, let me just try it. Let me just see. Let me just give it a shot, right?
It's so true,
And
bro.
then it was like, whoa, that wasn't so bad. Or, oh, okay, I can kind of do this. That was kind of cool. Or, you know, people kind of received me better than I thought. All right. It just kind of opened my mind to more and more things. And I'm like, let me try it. And yeah, when I met you and you were talking about TM, and I will say, there was moments I had as we were going through the 4-day course. Even last night I did it because I was like, I'm you know, talking to Jonny tomorrow. I'm going to get into it.
Refresh. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't as powerful as those moments, but it did allow me to kind of just like reconnect. Like, here you are, here you remain, and that's okay, and that's good. But in our 4-day course that we were working with together, I had moments that I hadn't really felt since I was in the hospital, when I felt like I was dying, when I felt like you're dead, the physical part of you is gone, and now your soul or spirit is moving on somewhere else. And it's weird because I've kind of moved away from religion a lot more after my accident, and I'm not encouraging everybody to do that. I'm just saying that was my experience. But with TM, I was like, I experienced this lightness, this weightlessness of my soul just kind of reaching somewhere I can't go when I'm in the day-to-day life of reality. And you got to be present. You can't, it's not all, again, this, don't worry about sounding woo-woo, because I felt this.
That was your personal experience.
That was my
your
personal experience.
subjective experience. Yeah. And
Exactly.
it's different
But
for
it was-
everyone, but I see what you're speaking to.
it was just this amazing thing. And
Yeah. Cool.
yeah, and through all of this experimentation on trying to heal or find what healing means to me, or becoming the person I want to be, whatever that means to me, I'm able to take one step towards that by just kind of not surrendering, not saying like, I'll just go with whatever, but just saying like, let me try. Maybe this will work for me.
Open-mindedness.
Open-mindedness,
Yeah.
man. And it's kind of got me to these amazing places. And it seems
Hell
like
yeah,
it
dude.
has for you too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a main takeaway, I think, from this conversation is, don't let your cynicism be your own destruction.
Yeah.
Thinking
The light went out just to hear this moment from
Yeah. I was tripping. I was like, was that me, or did that actually? Okay, yeah. So it was the light. Yeah, because I know a lot of guys, especially for everyone, but there's something about guys where we just get into this rut and we think nothing's gonna work, and there's no such thing
Yeah.
as nothing, and there's no such thing as always.
Mhm.
Never or always are just traps to get yourself into. So there's always something for someone. Just find what works for you and just stay with it, and then build momentum, because you're going to open up like you were just talking about. And then that's when life begins. That's when we actually live, and we're not controlled by our past. We're influenced, we educated, we're informed,
Yeah.
but we're not living and presently. And I think that's what the world is missing, at least in my opinion, is so many people are just stuck in their past stories. So I think there's something to be said about having a rites of passage, maybe a little, whether it's like a retreat. I work with a lot of veterans through the nonprofit I work for, the David Lynch Foundation, which offers full TM scholarships for veterans, active duty, first responders, their family members, and populations that, in my opinion, just need it the most. And, they talk to me about other things they're doing, and they go to these retreats, and they kind of have like a ceremonial rites of passage to leave that story behind and then allow
Right.
space for a new story. And,
Or
just
to write the story from a new perspective.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I wish not just every veteran, but I wish every person, could have that experience once a year, or twice a year,
Mhm.
just to break away and get a new perspective. But yeah, I know that
Yeah.
we're talking for a
No,
minute, so
no.
I don't want to keep
No,
keep you
no.
too long.
No, man, this has been absolutely incredible. There's so much I agree with. I relate to it. I am a fan. I'm not just a fan of TM and a believer in it, but a believer and fan of you. You've been incredible. It's been one of my favorite things I've done since doing this podcast, is getting to know you and getting to see how you've operated and you've overcome your own adversity. So I ask everybody these same two questions. If it's okay, I'd like to ask you as well. And I think you're going to have some amazing answers, even though I think in some ways you've already answered them. But
That's how it goes when you and I talk, man. It just kind of
because you're naturally, I mean, you talked about it already, like living authentically, and then, and just being that person you want to be. But the first question is this: what currently is giving you the most amount of peace?
How much time do you got, man? I
Not
don't want to.
much.
I don't want to take too much time.
much.
I've kind of, I'm sure you can tell, I've intentionally created an entire life with that in mind. I've just, everything that I decide now, because I've come from chaos and war, I want the complete opposite. So every decision, every person that I want to be with, or every job that I take, I want to have more peace. So I do 2 full programs, anchored peace. So I do, yoga asanas, a very simple, comfortable breathing practice. I do my full TM program, and then I create safety within my nervous system. I'm into fascial work, just body work, getting into nature, trying to surround myself with natural settings. But the number one thing that has given me the most peace is that self within me that you were speaking to, that we get when we practice TM. That's really the technique of TM, is inner peace. And it's within everyone. Every single person can do this technique, because it's our natural birthright to experience peace, inner peace, true inner peace. But how do you get there? That's the problem. They didn't teach us this when we were in school. So TM for me is that practice.
It's awesome, man. It's wonderful. All right, second question for you. If somebody's going through their lowest or darkest moment right now, what's one piece of advice you give them?
Yeah. I think we did cover a lot of good
I think so too.
things.
Yeah. And if it's the same thing that we've talked about, that's fine. But if there's something else that's come up, like if you're remembering your, 18 or your
Yeah.
20-year-old self, and he's struggling right now, and he's like, "Whoa, I don't even know where to go." What's that one thing you would tell him?
Well, when you were talking, something came up, and it's what we were talking about a little bit before, but it's, for me, it was my major pain point. The core of my suffering is that I didn't feel like I belonged. When I was a kid, didn't belong in my family. When I was in the military, didn't feel like I belonged. I felt less than, insecure. So I would say, if you're struggling and you're suffering, and one thing to kind of take away is that you belong. You are part of this human family. You are everything Yet we just forgot. That's it. We don't need to be fixed. We don't need to be, you're not disordered. You're not broken. Too much time is wasted in healing by using that model. Too much time. Don't waste time. Just go back. Go back to the source of who you are. Transcend and reach that inner peace, and remember and enjoy. And like you were saying, don't take things too seriously. Life is meant to be enjoyed. We're all in it together. And if you would like to learn TM, if you're in part of the world where there's a local TM center, you can go to tm.org and learn. If you're here in San Diego, where I'm based, I work for the David Lynch Foundation. We have full scholarships available if you are a veteran or a first responder, active duty member. You can just go to the website, davidlynchfoundation.org, and kind of apply, and you'll be supported.
What about you, personal social media and stuff? Can people reach out to you that way?
Yeah. So I'm not that active. I should be more active. Maybe
That's one thing I'm going to help you with.
You can teach me that. But definitely the main email for veterans is veterans@davidlynchfoundation.org. And for first responders, it's responders@davidlynchfoundation.org if you have any questions. But I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Jonny Mize. You can find me there. But yeah, reach out. Even if you don't want to learn TM and you just kind of want to have a human to kind of talk to, I'm always available. But yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity, man. This has been my first podcast, and I think it's a really, really cool thing that you're doing here, bro. So I'm just wishing you the best with this, and any way that I could help support what you're doing here. Yeah, let me know, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. You're one of a kind. I feel like I don't use this word too often. I know it can be cheesy to people, but it has been a blessing to meet you and get to know you, man. Yeah. It's honor to call you a friend. Let's bring it in, man.
Yeah, likewise. Oh, yeah.
Awesome, bro. Thanks,
right, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a blessing, man. Thank you.
If this episode hit home for you, like, share, and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. I'd love to know what Jonny's story meant to you. And make sure to follow Jonny and check out the Resilient Warrior program at Restore VFW in Solana Beach if you or someone you know needs some support. So take care of yourself, if you can, someone else, and keep exploring the bright side of life's darkest moments. Aloha.